Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ottawa Business Journal's live broadcast of Design Trends for Today's Workplace. I'm Michael Curran from the Ottawa Business Journal. Thank you for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. We're all getting back to work after the holidays, and I think this is a great way to get your mind thinking about some of the important business issues we're tackling. In fact, we have more than 150 people pre-register for this broadcast on YouTube. Plus, we've got people on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. I think it's an indication of the popularity of this topic and how it continues to be top of mind for many local business and public sector leaders. In today's broadcast, it's all part of Best Offices Ottawa. And this is a project that actually started pre-pandemic when Ottawa Business Journal wanted to inspire the best in local workplaces. In Ottawa and beyond, I think it's fair to say there's increased appreciation for the desire to create aesthetically beautiful, functional, and healthy offices. And there is a tighter connection that comes between office space today as we create company culture, especially as it relates to recruiting and retaining your people. And this Best Ottawa Offices projects, I should note, will come to a culmination in fall 2023 when we publish a beautiful glossy magazine. But this is about the live broadcast. So there are a series of live broadcasts that are part of Best Ottawa Offices, all brought to you by Burovision. And here's what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about the benefits of having a holistic and welcoming office, why flexibility and adaptability is so important, and how to support this adaptable, intuitive, and equitable settings for those people that are there in your workers in person and both virtually. But here's the bottom line, and that's why you're watching today. Employers have never had a better opportunity to create an office that fits their team rather than the other way around. And as always, we've got some great people lined up for us today. This will also be an interactive experience. So if you're watching on LinkedIn or YouTube, we're going to be asking you and soliciting your questions. So there will be an opportunity sometime around 12:30 to get your questions answered by today's two experts. And we are thrilled to have not one, but two experts, as I just mentioned, that are ahead of the curve when it comes to creating hybrid workplace designs. Let me first introduce the president and a partner at Burovision. Here is Gillian Oxley-Harper. Hello, Gillian.
Hi, Michael. So nice to be back.
It is nice. This is becoming a little bit of a trend where you and I are together every few months. And Gillian, some people might be thinking about their office and saying, is this a little bit like Groundhog Day? Like we keep talking about things and they're not happening. I tend to think there has been a change. So I think 2023 will be different from 2022, but let's get your expert opinion on that.
Well, it's not overly expert. I think in this case, I think a lot of companies in our marketplace were waiting to see what the federal government would do. And, we now know the hybrid workplace is here to stay. I think that most companies are looking for guidance. They don't know what to do. And I think that, with work and life entering this new kind of post-pandemic era, that we have a historic opportunity to reimagine the role of the modern workplace. Burovision in conjunction with Miller Knoll and in partnership with the design community here in Ottawa really have the opportunity to help employers and organizations better support flexible working and offer greater value to the employees and now and in the future.
I like both of the points you made there. The first one that I heard is leadership, right? This is an issue that needs leadership. We've seen it from the federal government. We've seen it from the private sector. This isn't something that people can sit back passively about. This is about our teams, for goodness sakes. It's about productivity. It's about the culture we build. And that's why I'm so happy people are joining you here today. And one of the neat things you've done, Gillian, today and in past episodes of this show is you've brought on experts from the design community. So thank you for doing that to make sure that we've got your expertise plus interior design. So let's welcome our special guest now. She is a principal at Forte and their senior designer. Here is Tzoofit Hammer.
Hello, thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to have you here. And thanks for Gillian for setting all of this up. So listen, we're going to take a quick look at our agenda, then we're going to get right down here to business. So as always, we're looking at three topics. The first topic we look at today is office as a destination and what your team will experience when they come in to a physical workplace. Number two, topic two, we're looking at the adaptability and flexibility component. That's going to be, I think, a recurring theme here. And number three, the use of technology and tools to make sure that there's an equitable experience between, those people that are participating, working remotely and working on site. And as promised, around 12:30 here today, we'll be turning to you, the audience, for your questions. So a very unique opportunity to ask questions of these two experts you have today. You can ask it on whatever social media program you're in, and I'll be moderating those questions around 12:30. So let's get right down to it. We have some beautiful photos, by the way. So if you're tuning in, we're not only gonna stimulate your mind, we're gonna inspire you aesthetically. So Gillian, let's go to our first topic, which is office as a destination. Over to you.
I think really when we're looking at bringing people back and looking at that hybrid model, the first principle you have to keep in mind is that places that matter to people start with people. That a people-first workspace is going to accomplish a number of things, including enhancing your corporate culture and creating a sense of belonging for the people that work there. It's going to have to support a spectrum of work processes across the workday. And finally, it really needs to make any trip to the physical office an experience that is worthwhile. So keeping those kind of three things in mind, creating a destination that matters to people is going to involve as well amenities, the whole look to it. Tzoofit's going to speak to some very, I think, important design principles that kind of need to be kept top of mind when creating an office as a destination.
Yes, I agree. And I have to start with saying again, we need to bring on board the experts. This could be scary, right? People need to realize you don't need to figure it out on your own. So it's really important. This is where we come as a value. I think one thing to start with is the first impression is very important. And until now, people did come back to the office sporadically, maybe. And when they come to the office, it's a ghost office. There's sometimes no one there. So, of course, you don't want to be there. Or the office is not set for this new way of working. It's not set for hybrid. It's not set for the way I'm going to be talking about. It should be set. So setting up the first impression is the key. And really, the first thing is creating the right amenities and the spaces to enable us to work differently. People also come back and they have a different experience. Working from home, they want to maybe work in different settings, not necessarily just at a workstation. So it's really important to creating different variety of spaces, whether it's open collaborative spaces, like what you see in this photo, small, large, or enclosed spaces like meeting room, focus room, training room, or whether it's heads down meeting spaces. It's really important to create a space that provide character. We're using more bold colors, bold materials, lighting, really creating inspirational spaces when you come to the office. I think maybe we can go to the next slide and we can talk more about creating spaces that are inviting and comforting. This on the left is an example of a little room that could be used for mothers if they're at the office, or for someone who wants to take a bit of a break, really creating spaces that also bring nature in. The photo on the right is a space that could be used as a welcoming area when you walk into the office, whether it's you as an employee or even a guest, because we are going to start seeing people coming back to the office for meetings. So some people like to work in this type of setting. I think as experts, it's really important for us to also extract the essence and the character of the company you work with. And we have the ability to translate it visually, because not every office and not every space should look the same. Next slide, maybe. We also are moving away, and this one maybe not the right when I talk about white, but this talks about, having the kitchen as a space that is also a fun space to work, creating whimsical vignettes around the office so I can actually use the office and the amenities I have at the office differently throughout the day based on my mood. Why am I at the office, right? Am I at the office today to meet with people, to brainstorm with people? It's really important to create spaces that are not sterile, spaces that really provide almost like they create this drama when you come in. Not necessarily drama in color, but really creating spaces that are warm, that are welcoming, that are almost homey, but not home. Gillian, anything to add
Sorry.
to this?
Yeah, I was just going to say, that we hear all of this talk now about work-life balance and being able to do that. And, I think one of the difficulties that people have with work-life balance is when they're working from home all the time, there is no work-life balance. The lines become extremely blurred. And, with technology allowing us to work at any hour of the day, the lines between work and play have become even more blurred. And that really leads to like a constant 24/7 state of connectedness. And that can be detrimental to our well-being, both, mentally and physically. And I think because of this shift in focus, because of our awareness of this, instead of creating like a work-life balance, I think you almost have to, if I can call it, a work-life blend. And spaces that attract people are going to allow them to do that. They can still have that flexibility where, okay, you know what? I don't really want to work at a workstation. I really like being in this bright, sunny, cafeteria, which is now a multi-purpose hospitality area. I really like to sit on one of the couches in the collab areas with my legs crossed and work on my laptop. So I think we just have to be conscious that there's a lot of factors we're trying to address. We're not trying to make it overcomplicated, but having that workplace primarily, one of the top 3 items is it's a destination where people want to be.
I think the next image really demonstrates well, and this is actually a project in Ottawa, how a space could be welcoming, how a space could be used various ways, by people. And I think it's also important to recognize that being a hybrid space, you come from home to the office, it's really important to also recognize that maybe once or twice a week, it's really important mentally to take a break from work at the office. And it does provide this almost like a restart to people. So when they come back to the office, they are rejuvenated and they're excited. And it's the people and it's the spaces that make the people.
And I think I think we're going to move on to our second topic. So that was a great start. Thank you very much to both of you on that. I love the fact that we're actually looking at an Ottawa photo here. It looks like something it belongs in Interior Design magazine, but this is reality. In fact, Tzoofit, you told me you're right there.
Yeah, people can notice me
So there's proof that it's that it's in
there.
Ottawa. So that's wonderful. And lots of good points, by the way, to start off. And, we all have learned to work differently, and that includes different spaces. So I love the point that you're working out there. The other thing you made me think about, Gillian, when you were speaking, is sometimes we want to go to the office because it does create more of a boundary between I'm at the office and I'm working, as opposed to I'm at home and I'm doing the laundry and trying to make a sandwich and helping the kids with their homework and all that type of stuff. So a great start to both of you. Number 2, topic number 2 here, we're going to talk about the adaptability and flexibility is so important. And it's something we've touched on before, Gillian, and I think it really is so important because we're in a new world now. And part of what we want to do is make sure that continues to be adaptable and flexible for what comes next. But take it away on topic number 2, Gillian.
Yeah, 100%. The workplace is going to continue to change. So, company owners in conjunction with their planners, their design firms, their furniture providers, they really have the greatest opportunity for success if they integrate an iterative approach. And what that really means is you're looking at metrics, okay? Constant testing and retesting of what works best as employees begin to interact with and experience physical and virtual work. Environments are really going to lead to the modifications, those little changes, just little tweaks here, maybe, redoing a floor plate, maybe adding, maybe taking away some things, but really what are going to provide that long-term sustainability for the employees in the workplace. So this particular one, I'm going to let Tzoofit utilize her expertise on this. But if you look at this, if you reimagine your workspace in 2019, you probably had an area where there was pods of workstations, and then you had to walk away to go into a collaborative area or a couch area or go watch a webinar. It's all about adjacencies of space. And here you not only have heads down space, you have meeting space, you have a relaxing space. There's a privacy pod in the corner. You see what we mean about the flexibility of the space? It really is crucial to creating that workspace where people want to be.
Yes, agree. We call them neighborhoods, right? We like to use the term neighborhood. So you walk around and you have different experiences and different functionalities. But I think it's important to note that it is a tailored approach. And despite the fact that, the clients are going to come to us and invest the time to get us through the exploratory process, we're going to start with a very good foundation, a good base, but things might change. Things might evolve. We, for example, right now have a few projects where clients completed their space during COVID, and clients are only really using their spaces now in the last 6 months. And we already see how they come back and say, we've noticed a pattern. We use more of these spaces, which are, as an example, meeting rooms rather than offices, or we need more of these types of collaborative spaces. We're able to do it because we're designing the spaces already with infrastructures in them, with furniture that allows flexibility. And everyone needs to know, starting this process, it's not necessarily the way you're going to finish this process, right? Give yourself a time. And that's why sometimes it's important to even start with just a portion of the office. If you have a large floor plate, do something that is purely a furniture solution, and not don't do any demolition or real fit up, new walls. And after 6 months, go back to the staff, assess what has worked, what didn't work, what is lacking, and then make it a much broader project after you got this information. So it doesn't need to be something that is too costly or too scary to people to start with.
Mm-hmm. The next couple of slides show, again, really adaptable and flexible use of space, zones, neighborhoods. It's really about reimagining that floor plate. And very good point. This doesn't need to be costly construction and demolition. It's really, and we talked about this, I think, Michael, in the very first webinar about a thriving workplace, where we said sometimes it's just thinking of a different purpose for the space, a different use for the space, making it multi-purpose. And one of the things we feel is very important is user control over configuration. So, we don't need all of these massive heavy pieces that are, bolted to the floor like they actually still do in some post-secondary institutions. But, if I want to pull up a chair and join two people that are maybe on a couch and an adjacent armchair, I can do that. So I have the ability to make the space what I need it to be in that moment, and then it can be put back or rearranged by somebody else. It's really about thinking about how much purpose, how much adaptability can I get out of this zone or this neighborhood.
Yes, agree. And it's also talking about multi functionality of spaces, especially if people are looking at maximizing their office. It's really creating multi-purpose spaces. An office that is also used when the occupant is not there as a meeting space, whether it's a physical or a virtual meeting space, a meeting room that could be reconfigured to be training or other kind of brainstorming type of setting, so you can move the furniture around. You have your obviously technology that is available in the room, or even something that we've seen in some of those photos is a staff lounge or cafeteria that is also used for informal meetings, for town hall meetings, even for work. Many of our clients choose the best location on their floor for that staff lounge area because this is their prime space for staff. I could decide that this afternoon the sun is setting beautifully in this corner in the staff lounge. I'm going to do my work there. I don't need to have too much of a heads down work, or maybe I'm going to have a meeting there because this is the best place to stay today. Tomorrow I'm in a different mood. Maybe I'll go to another part of the plan. I think it's also important to note that hybrid can mean different things to different companies. For example, for someone, we have some companies that decided to go full hybrid, meaning 2 to 3 days a week at the office, but they have allocated designated personal space to each person, but providing more of those amenity spaces that we were discussing, whether it's different, collaborative spaces, meeting spaces, or we have other clients that have a more traditional setting like law firms, where they still wanted to keep the more traditional setting where you've got offices along the perimeter. But if a partner is only there once a week, the offices are then used by other staff members for different types of tasks. So it's really important to rethink of how we use the spaces. Furniture is key to create this flexibility.
Very interesting. And let's see the next slide.
Oh, that's part of a welcoming, right? This is more of kind of a welcoming space. And Gillian, I don't know if you want to speak to this.
Yeah, I think we did touch on this. So there's a little bit maybe of Groundhog Day, but it's, when you look at how you're planning your day right now, you might have 10 back-to-back meetings that are half an hour each with 20 minutes in between for lunch. Having privacy pods, these framery pods in a welcome area, in a a very open area really do allow people to go immediately to another meeting that may be online. Maybe they just need to take a call from home. Maybe they need to make an appointment. So planting and positioning these privacy pods in strategic areas that are adjacent will ensure that they're used and will allow people to feel a little more in control of what they're doing during their day, because they can choose where they're going to have that particular meeting.
Agree. And specifically for those little small spaces, sometimes they're like, freestanding pods. Many times we just do them as part of the build. We use those many times as what we call at home when you've got a powder room and you make it very dramatic. This is where we have the ability to create very unique, almost like vignettes that you may not, the client might not be comfortable having the whole office look like this, but creating really dramatic spaces in those little cubes.
Yep.
And the next slide.
This also shows, the different, you can do multi types of flexibility, types of activities. On the left is a staff lounge. Use, fun furniture. You can work there, you can meet there. And on the right, that's another, by the way, project in Ottawa. You can see me on the left slide. And on the right, you can see areas of open and closed meeting spaces. Everything is in close adjacencies. I think it's also important to remember that many people, whether it's in the private or the public sector, they don't necessarily know how to use some of those highly collaborative spaces. They have not seen these before. So it's very important to make sure that people know how to use the spaces. Otherwise, they won't be used.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right. Well, I think we're going to move to our third topic. We're moving at a good pace. So thank you to both of you for being in depth, but succinct at the same time, balancing those interests. And in topic number 3, we're going to talk a little bit about workspace that is equitable. And by equitable, we're in this sense of the word equitable, we're talking about if a person's working remotely or if person's working in the office, we want there to be an equitable experience. So we don't want, the in-person people feeling more important or more engaged than the remote people. So take that one away, Gillian.
So, the technology piece is so critical. And I just want to be very clear that we're not prescribing technology. We can certainly create environments that support it. But in addition to utilizing technology and furnishings to provide an equitable experience for both in-person and remote participation, we actually have a word we coined called phygital, which means physically present and digitally present. But in that experience, you really have a purposeful integration of technology in the workplace, and that can be a real solution to a number of key challenges facing the workplaces today. If I feel present, even though I have to work from home today, or maybe I'm choosing to work from home today, it's really going to make a difference to how I feel. If I feel that I'm, just kind of being zoomed in the corner, or, that I'm actively participating. And believe it or not, that will actually have a lot to do with retaining and attracting talent, to building connection within people within the company, to create that sense of community, and really to foster that culture of belonging and innovation and creativity within the teams. So the equality of experience between remote and in-site is as important as everything else that we have already spoken about. And a lot of companies are saying, we need to get this piece of it right. And you need to get all of it right. But this one is really critical. Tzoofit, I'll let you speak to you, because I think we have some really good images showing, how we can make sure that technology is doing its best to create that sense of belonging and community for people.
Yeah, I agree. And we have a few clients who even now just started not completely addressing the whole office, but for them it was very important to create spaces. They call them basically team meeting spaces, where people who are joining, virtually don't feel that they're left out or not part of the whole setting. And you can see it in this layer and in the next slide too. You have maybe a few people that are facing the screen in the more traditional way, but then you've got also a two-tiered kind of a way of doing things. So it feels more basically inclusive to everyone. You also need to make sure that these rooms that are going to be specifically set for this hybrid inclusion are also used other ways when there's no hybrid meeting. So really creating this flexibility. You can see you've got the tiered seating. It's also creating flexibility to move things around if things don't work and people from homes have comments, we want to move it here, we want to move it there. So really creating spaces that provide that is inclusiveness. This is a larger space. The next slide shows a slightly smaller setting, almost looks like a living room with high chairs. The chairs in the front can swivel so you can actually face each other. You can turn around and have a discussion with other people. It's really important to create the sense of almost like physical meeting, even when you're not at the office. Another thing I think it's important to touch on besides technology and connectivity is the equality to natural light and views. And that's something that is going to be more and more important. And I think you see it in the next slide. It's not positioning the hierarchical people at the windows. It's putting, again, the staff and the people's spaces at the window so everyone can experience and appreciate the locale. I think it's very important.
The one thing I'll just jump in with a quick observation on that, Tzoofit. It used to be that, to your point, whether it's a law firm, accounting firm, whatever, you put the senior partners near the windows. And maybe there was a reason for that, in part because they would be in that office for like 8 hours a day, for 5 days a week, for 40, 50, 60 hours. But with this flexibility and people, fully embracing hybrid, I think it is sinking into me that there is this beautiful opportunity to rethink that and have more equity when it comes to natural light in the office and that. So what a wonderful point.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it's also touching on outdoor spaces, right? Which we don't have a slide to, but many companies want to make sure if they have that ability to provide outdoor space. If I was working at home and I was able to work in my garden, but work, while I was, during COVID, they want to allow staff the ability to either work or even, just meet and collaborate on outdoor spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a neat look too, where you get a little bit of a private space. I'm seeing like a workstation, but I'm also seeing like a mini meeting space there. All things and people that could be doing heads down work on that long table. All sorts of things happening. This is kind of when you're talking about adjacency. I think Gillian is
and it almost illustrates everything we've been talking about during the equitable technology, flexibility, and the workplace as a destination. So it's really. Those are the three key things. And I think if I wanted to emphasize one thing, it would be that people first mindset really develops a sense of corporate empathy that leads to an equitable workplace and for everyone, as well as thriving employees. We talk about you, and I love the way you said, is it like Groundhog Day? And there's so much new research coming out constantly about returning to the office and what are the design trends and how should we do it, that I was kind of reviewing my notes yesterday prior to this webinar today, and I came across a new term yesterday that was maybe just coined in the last couple of days, and it's called the regenerative. It'd be nice if I could pronounce it, regenerative workplace. And it really embodies the whole idea, what we've been talking about, that when people feel supported mentally, physically, and socially, they truly do bring their best selves to work. And really, it's a win-win. It creates better outcomes for both the individuals who are returning to office, as well as for the organizations that hired them and that they work for. So it's really about taking all these pieces, putting them together, but regenerating the excitement, the wellness, and the whole experience for the worker and for the company by putting some thought and some time into how you're going to welcome them back to the workspace.
Yeah. Very, very well said again. I think when I've witnessed people coming together face to face these days, there's a whole new energy that's brought to that. And that energy unleashes productivity. It unleashes culture. It leads, a personal connectivity between people. So, again, that's why I think many businesses, in fact, all organizations really need to put some serious thought into this. We got some questions, so we're going to shift into our question mode. And there's a few coming in. That's my face of Regman. Okay, so I'll start with Wayne Murray, and I'll bring some of these up on screen. So Wayne is saying, thank you for the question, Wayne, by the way. What kind of smart space apps would you recommend to making a space more effective and inviting? So I don't know if this might be, Matt, a bit of a technology question, but any thoughts to you, Gillian or Tzoofit?
I'm not a technology expert, I can tell you that. I'm a space expert.
I'm a furniture expert, but
Okay.
I'm sure that their IT provider could assist them with that. It's I did say, and I'll just reiterate that we're not at any position or level of knowledge to prescribe technology, but we can certainly build the workspace around that will support it, enhance it, and give you maximum productivity and success from whatever technological platform you choose to use.
Excellent.
And I guess it's important to note that if you don't have this in-house in your company, we many times on larger projects involved, experts that could help with that.
And that sense of collaboration, right, is happening right here, where we've got furniture experts and interior design coming together. So it's such a good fit, Tzoofit. Good point, Tzoofit, that if you want to have a successful project, you'll need to address it from many different ways, including technology. Matt D is, by the way, lots of positive feedback to both of you. People saying they love the discussion. So I'll show some of those in a second. But Matt D here is saying, are you experiencing similar requirements or desires from clients, or do they have differ depending on sector or business? So are there any similar themes that are emerging, or is it really different according to sector? Maybe Gillian, you want to kick that one off, and Tzoofit will get your thoughts on that too.
I think I'll kick that one back pretty quickly to Tzoofit.
Okay.
But we are finding that any of our customers, new or customers that are now have been with us for a while, everybody wants to know, what is everybody else doing? How many projects have you completed where you have reimagined or redone some space for them? What are they doing? How are they handling this? How are they handling that? And I think, my opinion, I think it does differ on the company. I think the sector is definitely an influencer, but I also think that the company's culture is also a big part of it, and what their actual RTO, return to office policy, is. So it's really about the importance and the frequency, because hybrid is hybrid. It can be what you choose to make it be. Might be 2 days a week, might be 4 days a week. I don't know what a particular company does, but once that model's been created, and once you understand what the customer is doing, it's much easier to create or rearrange or reimagine their space for them. Tzoofit, are you seeing trends in a particular sector, or?
I think it's very important to know, Gillian, as well, that it does depend if it's technology or if it's more traditional setting. But what I see a lot is more emphasis on all these amenity spaces, whether it's collaborative spaces or meeting spaces, because people come to the office most often now to actually meet with other people in different forms. Less of these my personal workstation and more. And I see it actually, I've got quite a few clients that now they started using this space. They're like, we don't have enough meeting spaces. So that's a trend.
And that's a commonality, I think, regardless of the sector, is the variety of this type of space. So
that's certainly what I've seen for what it's worth. When people are coming to the office, it's because you're going to meet, right? So you want that collaboration meeting space. And I think you're right. A lot of businesses, Tzoofit, will be saying we need more like flexible meeting, like we need small size, medium size, big size, and
different settings, different furniture. Yep.
Yeah, and that's where that multi-purpose space, right? When I think of the large, if you need like an all hands, right? You might. Here's a great question from Rel, and it's one of the ones I think people wonder about when they're looking at all of these open concept. And of course, the open concept debate was going on way before the pandemic. So Rel here is saying, how do you balance between open space and other parts of the office? That is a balance. So can one of you speak to that, please?
So it really depends on your business. I don't believe that one fits all. And there are some offices where a pure open workstation and open collaborative space is going to work great. In other businesses, and depending again on what types of business it is, it may be mostly in closed spaces. It's not to say dedicated or staff spaces, but more enclosed spaces. So it's very, very specific to the individual business. And that's why we keep saying this is not one fits all. You can't just go to the store and get something that you think fits you. There's a process of analysis of how you work, how you have been working, how you think you'll be working. And, the government may be going, as an example, with one way, which is the ABW, and it's mostly open spaces for individuals. Some companies might say, when we come to the office, we need heads down. We're going to have mostly enclosed spaces, whether it's for collaboration, whether it's for individuals. So it's really not one fits all, unfortunately. There's not a clear answer.
I think you're right. I think that's why people need to consult with experts like you, and you need to ask lots of very specific questions about numbers and type of work and nature of work and hours of operation and all that type of thing. So,
and I think too, engaging with your employees about how they work, how they want to work, what they want the experience to be, and then leveraging that feedback to create the workplace strategy. And then, as we've said a couple of times, but just to reemphasize it, understand it's not a pilot project, but it's a pilot approach. And you may be rearranging, you may be moving things, but it's really about creating the workspace that is going to be the best for employees out of those engagements and based on that feedback from them.
I think we have time for one more question, and this one's probably aimed at Tzoofit. It's a bit of a longer one, but I love the point that's being made here. Color makes a big difference to minds. As an example, Nortel was very good with the interior designing. The welcome space was always colorful, and that was inviting for his employees as they entered the workplace in the morning, and maybe felt groggy due to lack of caffeine or breakfast. So maybe, and then we have all sorts of questions coming in now. So maybe, Tzoofit, take a quick run at that one. I'm sure you would agree, right? Color
100%,
matters.
100%. And I think that's something I've touched on. We're also moving away from the stark, wide, minimalistic approach that we like to design offices 10, 15 years ago, really creating an inspiring, saturated color and material palette. Again, every office is different, but really creating this sense of warmth. We're using more materials like wood. We're using different applications of colors, of textures. Really, it's the richness. We're moving more towards rich environments. Absolutely. Color is key. Color is also, there's psychology behind colors too, to create calmness, to create stimulation. So we're using all this knowledge and applications when we're looking at a space.
Wonderful. And I lied. We're going to go to maybe one or two other questions because I love this one. This is really interesting. Here it comes. So Kim Hall is saying, and so many business owners and managers must be thinking about this. Has there been an accommodation benchmark established with employers? So, for example, if they had 100 employees, are you building space for 100 or 70 or 50? So, it is a real question, right? So
it's a very good question,
because we're not necessarily going to default to, everyone needs a dedicated space, and I think this in my mind, I'm not the expert, frees up potential budget as well. Because
100%.
If you said, hey, we're going to have hybrid, so we might shrink the space a little bit, not necessarily, but we might shrink the space and invest that into higher quality space. But Gillian, why don't we come to you on that question? Any thoughts?
I think that it's not necessarily shrinking. It might be, but I think it's repurposing the space. And it also depends on the hybrid model. And a part of that hybrid model is, am I having assigned workstations for people? So I can put my picture of my family on my desk,
my cats,
and all your little, thingies. Or am I having unassigned and I'm using booking software to book a meeting room or book a particular workstation or office for a day? So it's really, I think if you're talking about, are you designing for 50, you're not going to need 100 workstations anymore. I really don't think so, because people are not going to go to that workstation. Some will, but it's about these flexible other spaces that support the work that's being done. The lounges, the fact that we're seeing, in lunchrooms or hospitality areas, they're putting power modules on banquettes so that I can charge my laptop or be connected while I'm after lunch or during. It's typically after lunch. I want to stay there. To Tzoofit's point, it looks outside. It's a nice sunny day. I'm going to continue to work here and I can charge my laptop. I've got great support to sit for a couple of hours. So it's really thinking about, what's your model for hybrid? How many days are you doing assigned or unassigned workstations and offices? And then you can move forward from there with some ideas on how to repurpose your space. Tzoofit, did you want to add anything?
I think the only thing I can say is that, again, there's no benchmark to if it's a 50, 70, or 80. Each organization is different. Some people go to full hybrid. but have assigned seats to everyone. So it's really depending on the organization and what they want to do. And sometimes it's a decision from above. So, but I would
Yeah.
say in general, 50 to 70 is probably what
Yeah.
we plan with when we don't know specifics.
And yet another reason to engage, by the way, with experts to help you make that decision and challenge your thinking and come up with some good tips. So there were so many questions and some we didn't get to. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your question. We will be sending around, by the way, the contact information for both Gillian and Tzoofit. So if you had a question you really want to get answered, just stay tuned. If you're registered, you'll get some contact information. So let's bring up our takeaways. So we always want to leave people, Gillian, with some, here's what you should be doing and thinking about. So maybe speak to some of these takeaways here.
Well, this is just really a summary of what we spoke to during the last 40 minutes, that you want to create a space that matters, a destination where people want to be. Keep flexibility and adaptability at the top of your list, because, the space is going to evolve, but as an employer, we also have to be flexible and adaptable. Oh, I fell in love with that collaborative space. Why aren't people using it? You have to understand people work differently now, and that collaborative space may serve purpose more so as a great big common table, communal table where people can just, go if they choose to work there, have lunch there, and have a collaborative space in a meeting room. It's really about what people want to do. And that equality of experience, in person and remote, leverage the technology, the adaptive design, and the multi-purpose furnishings to make sure that people do feel included. They feel that they're participating, that they're being heard, and that they're being seen. It's come light years just since, March of 2020, when we were all on Zoom meetings and, there was terrible lighting, and it was, we've just come so far in such a short period of time. Don't forget that piece. It's really, really important.
I agree.
Listen, I want to thank you, Gillian, and Burovision as a whole for stepping up and supporting this discussion. We've had lots of positive feedback, and that's all due to Burovision and this initiative. So thank you very much. And Tzoofit, for you and your friends at Forte, by the way, that's 4TE. So if I always like the name of the company, and it's really kind of clever, 4TE, Forte. So thanks for being our special guest and bringing this very important interior
Thanks for having me.
Design discussion. So I'll bid both of you adieu. So thank you very much. We'll hope to see you soon. In fact, we do have another discussion coming up with Gillian Burovision just in a few months. And I want to sign off on behalf of OBJ. Thanks for attending today. I want to remind you that you can visit obj.ca throughout the day for local business news. We have a brand new website that just launched. Be sure to check out our OBJ Insider program. We also have a great weekday email called OBJ Today. And I know people think email, it's like, oh my God, the last thing I want is another email. This is kind of a summary email. So I like to think you actually save time by getting this email. You get a sense for what happened in a local business. And of course, you can follow OBJ on social media. LinkedIn is very popular today. I think we're over 27,000 followers and all that type of stuff. And for you people watching on YouTube, please hit the red subscribe button and the little bell icon. If you do that, you'll get notified when we're live. This live broadcast will just in about 15, 20, 30 minutes become an on-demand webinar as well. So you can share this with your colleagues. As we wrap up, I just want to encourage you again, this is an issue that needs leadership. You need to get ahead of this issue. You need to engage with experts, and I'd encourage you to call the great people at Burovision to do so. So on behalf of Burovision and Forte, I want to thank you for joining today. Hope to see you real soon. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.